There's quite a bit of anti-Muslim sentiment in the United States, especially after 9/11. I've spoken to people about that. There's also anti-Jewish, anti-Semitism sentiment in the United States, but also throughout human history. What do you make about this kind of fact of human nature that people seem to hate Jews throughout history, especially in the 20th century, especially with Nazi Germany? What are your, in general, thoughts about the hatred of the Jewish people?
I mean, I think it's obviously wrong. I don't know. It's this idea that I even have to clarify what I think about anti-Semitism that doesn't sit right well with me. I think it's completely unfortunate and wrong that Jewish people have been persecuted across history.
So one of the criticisms, I think I read the ADL making this criticism of you, is maybe you've tweeted a comparison between Israel and Hitler, and thereby diminishing the evil that is Hitler. What would you say to that?
Amy Césaire talks about this a lot. The exceptionalization of Hitler. Hitler is a deplorable, I don't know, condemnable, rotten, racist, horrible human being that belongs in the depths of hell. Obviously, that goes without saying. But I am allowed analogy, and I'm allowed to say whatever I want. Now, I don't necessarily think that such an analogy is a good strategy to have. But at the time, the context came in 2021 when Israeli soldiers and policemen and settlers were literally burning down our neighborhood. Again, verifiable by Google. And I tweeted it. And I remember I tweeted something, I hope every single one of them dies. And to this day, like, this is some kind of, gotcha for me, as if I should have tweeted like, oh, here's the apple pie for every single soldier that's throwing tear gas in my house. There is such an exceptionalism when it comes to Palestinians. We're not allowed analogy, we're not allowed expression, we're not allowed armed resistance, we're not allowed peaceful resistance, we're not allowed to boycott because that's anti-Semitic. We're not allowed to do anything. So what are we allowed? If I can't boycott, and that's against American law now to boycott, and if I can't pick up a rifle because that's against the law, and if I can't even tweet my frustration out, what am I allowed to do? Maybe Netanyahu can send me a manual he's happy with,
So you've spoken about the taking of homes, the IDF killing civilians, killing children. What about the violence going the other direction? Israelis being killed, in part by terrorist action.
Well, it depends on how you define terrorism, right? Across history, one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. I don't necessarily subscribe to the definition of terrorism. If a foreign army is in my neighborhood, which it's not supposed to be, and they're shooting live ammunition at my house, I'm allowed to do what I'm allowed to do. And again, this is yet another case of Palestinian exceptionalism, because when it comes to Ukraine, people have no problem seeing Ukrainians defending their homes, seeing Ukrainians dying for their land, seeing Ukrainians making makeshift Molotovs on Sky News. Mm-hmm. Sky News was running Molotov making cocktails. The New York Times ran an article interviewing a Ukrainian psychologist who said that hatred, I'm paraphrasing, but he said hatred for all Russians is actually a healthy outlet. The New York Post ran a headline championing quote unquote heroic Ukrainian suicide bomber. These things we would not even dream of as Palestinians. We are told to turn the other cheek time and time again. We're told that we should continue living inside these enclaves without access to clean water, without access to the right to movement, without access to building permits, without our natural right to expansion, without a guarantee that if we leave our house, we're not going to be shot. and we're supposed to not do anything about it. That is absurd. Any person watching this understands this completely. People understand, people understand that if somebody is attacking your home, you fight back. If somebody is attacking your family, you fight back. That is not. But again, who gets to call who a terrorist? Who gets to define terrorism? This is all about who has power. Who gets to write these laws? Who gets to write these definitions? Why is it that American actions in Iraq is not called terrorism by American politicians? Why is, violence is like this mutating concept, and it takes on many shapes and forms. And if it's in a uniform, if it speaks in English, if it has blonde hair, it's somehow acceptable. It's okay. We make movies about it. We sell out tickets about it. We make games about it. But if it's without a uniform, if it has a thick accent, if it has a beard, that's condemnable. That's wrong. That's terrorism.
Do you think violence is an effective method of protest and resistance in general?
In general, I think it has been, but I think, I believe in fighting on all fronts. I don't think violence alone is going to bring about change. I think there's so much to do in culture and shifting public opinion. There's so much to do in media and fighting back against media erasure and censorship. There's so much to do diplomatically and politically. And I think I would be naive if I don't take the power imbalance into consideration. One side has makeshift weapons, and the other side is one of the most sophisticated armies in the world. So I don't know how effective violence could be in this case.
But if you look at the flip side, do you see the power of nonviolent resistance? So Martin Luther King, Gandhi, the power of turning the other cheek. You spoke negatively about turning the other cheek.
Yeah.
So I sense that doing so has not been effective for the Palestinian people.
We've turned the other cheek generation after generation. There is this Zionist trope that is used against us. They say Palestinian rejectionism. They say that we reject everything. But if you look at the history, like our leadership, the Palestinian Authority has given up inch after inch, has compromised on acre after acre, has signed deal after deal after deal after deal, and still there is no peace. So turning the other cheek is not, the most effective method in my book.